So today I'm going to talk about kind of gun control and gun culture and kind of what many young Americans seem to forget, and that kind of includes myself. So I'm going to start this off by saying I am pro-gun control, but I'm not anti-gun. A couple years ago I might have said I was anti-gun, but I'm working on keeping my mind open to how other people are, and I kind of forget a lot of what I'm going to talk about today. But I'm not going to talk about my own political views right now. That's not what I'm talking about. So in my nuclear family, guns were never really a big thing. My family never owned guns. They never took me hunting. They never went hunting. We never had any guns in the house, not even for the whole, I have a shotgun under the bed for self-defense if someone breaks in. We don't have guns at my house. And my dad is very much so a city boy, so he's kind of afraid of guns. He's only ever, when I was 12, which was the last time I really shot a gun, he only let me shoot off the .22 that my uncle had. He didn't let me shoot off the handgun. He didn't let me do anything but a couple of the .22s my uncle had. But whereas my mom, her side of the family, she grew up in a small little rural town, and hunting is a big part of the culture there. So I'm just going to put a pause on talking about my mom's family, kind of talk about where and how I grew up. I grew up on the edge of where suburban turns into rural. So guns weren't a huge part of the culture, but for a lot of people at my middle school and elementary school, they were. Kids would show up sometimes in their camo gear because it was the warmest clothes they had. They might not show up in their hunting pants like they usually probably would wear their street clothes, I suppose. But they would wear their hunting jacket because that's the warmest jacket they had. And, people would wear camo, and, I have a feeling I didn't really notice the NRA stickers because I didn't know what they were, but I have a feeling there were a lot of those in the parents' on their cars. But, so, I didn't grow up in the country, but I didn't really grow up in the city either. So yeah, that's kind of the culture that I grew up with. Guns were just kind of there, but they weren't a huge part of life. Whereas my mom, as I mentioned, she grew up in a small little rural town, and guns were a huge part of her family. Hunting was food, It wasn't just a pastime, but it was also food. Some of my mom's best memories with her and her dad were when she was fishing with her dad. Pretty sure this isn't her favorite memory, but her dad did make her help with skinning and cleaning the deer that he would hunt. And it's a big part. Sorry, that's my computer. It just updated itself. So guns are a big part of their family, and just kind of to give you a little bit more perspective about how big a part of life hunting is. My grandpa, he died of cancer a couple years ago, and before that he was kind of in treatment for that cancer for 12 years. And the treatments for that, I don't know if it would be called a tic, but his hands would shake, he couldn't hold anything steady, and he slept a lot. But when it was hunting season, he went up to his tent, his little blind, up in the woods behind his house, because he owned that land, so even though it was in a national forest, he was allowed to hunt there because it was his land. And during hunting season, every morning he'd go up with a cup of tea or something, just a hot drink in his thermos, and he would watch the deer and he would hunt. A lot of the time, especially in those last 12 years, it was nap time in the woods, but it was a huge part of his life. And recently my cousin got her first deer, and I'm proud of her for that. Her dad cried when she told my mom that she probably shouldn't be telling her that, but her dad cried. And she was using one of my grandpa's guns when she did it, and it's a big tradition thing. I'm proud of her. See, I'm tearing up, and it's a huge part of tradition and culture, especially in that half of my family, and it's a lot of us young Americans tend to forget that. Um, I did. I used to be anti-gun, but like, because I was kind of like going to the extreme of what I believed. But I'm working on realizing that, you know, the ideas that I had when I was a kid aren't necessarily bad just because I had those ideas when I was a kid. Um, and it's like there's a lot of fear when people see gun control, and it's like they want to get rid people. They want to take away our guns because a lot of the times, a lot of like all of the more radical liberal policies will be like, yeah, no guns whatsoever. That's like, I know. I guess I will talk about my kind of political views a little bit on gun control because it might be kind of confusing to hear about. I'm pro gun control, but I'm not anti gun, especially in a space like on the internet. And I am fairly liberal. I would say that a lot of my political views would, they would definitely qualify me as fairly liberal. And it's like, I guess what I mean is I'm not anti hunting rifles. I'm not anti even like having like a handgun for self defense, having a shotgun in your house. What I am against is like military grade weapons that are designed for killing people being easy to get. Um, that's the kind of gun control that I want. And I also something that I think should be enforced a little better, but I don't know how it would be enforced is gun security in your home. Because a lot of injuries and deaths that occur from guns, it's not crime related. A lot of it is kids who don't know about gun safety, or they just drop the gun because they're kids and they don't have the full dexterity and strength of like older people. And it's like a lot of injuries and deaths are caused by that, and it's because people don't always secure their guns properly, like keeping them in a gun safe that has a lock on it, and not keeping your gun loaded, and not storing your gun loaded, and just things like that. And that's the sort of gun control I'm talking about. And like kind of, I don't even necessarily want to keep anyone from having semi-automatic weapons. Just don't make them that easy to get, people, and just maybe keep them at a gun range, or if you're out in the county, because I know gun ranges don't exist out in the county. Just keep it registered with your sheriff. Just stuff like that. But I don't have any problems with like hunting rifles and stuff because it's a huge part of culture, and it's like I don't want to take that away from people. Guns are about as big a part of American culture, if not bigger, than cars. Because I guess cars represent to a lot of Americans kind of just freedom, independence. Like you can drive yourself anywhere, and guns almost even more so because there's this culture of tradition and just a lot of cultural tradition. It's like I mentioned, it's a huge part of families. Like hunting is huge. It's a thing that you do with your family, and it has all this meaning behind it. And I don't think that's something we should take away. So I hope this kind of puts a little bit of a different light on guns to people who maybe don't have this sort of experience with their family as to what guns really are to a lot of Americans.